All right, everyone, we should be live. Let's make sure that's actually the case over on Rumble, of course. Starting a little bit early today because I'm actually going to be cooking off some good shit later. Oven roasted potatoes. We've got some nice chicken. I'm going to butterfly those fillets up and the kip boobs and slap them on a skillet. Lots and lots of herbs and spices because, any other way, it's just inferior. And also some green beans because, green beans go with everything. So, I'll probably keep it slightly short today, maybe 45 minutes, 50 or thereabouts, because I have to eat at some point. And no, CG, late because he's preparing a chili. No, I did that the other day. I ate about 5 bowls in total. I ate seconds the first day, and then I had thirds the second day. That's how good it was. Yes, I had coffee to my chili. Somebody actually sent me a DM tipping me off that it was a good idea to add coffee or sometimes chocolate for some reason. I don't know that I'd like chocolate in the chili, but a little bit of instant coffee, just a little half a handful. It really does change the flavor profile. It makes it a lot more earthy, a lot better in every way. We're going to be talking about the war on the ADL, Redux. Of course, we talked about that yesterday. And now it looks like Elon Musk is going to be suing the ADL. Now, there are court filings there as well. I wish him well, although it's probably going to fail. You do have a defamation case, but the threshold for defamation is rather high in the United States. It shouldn't be so high. Basically, if you spread a falsehood about another person with the goal to harm them materially, you shouldn't have to prove damages. Unfortunately, in a lot of Western countries, you have to prove actual damages, and it's up in the air whether Musk will have the capability of proving that. You have to have a sympathetic court because otherwise they'll just laugh it out of court. At this point, the legal system in the U.S. has become a joke. So we'll be talking about the ADL. We'll also be talking about the fact that Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee. At this point, we've seen enough polling. We've seen enough shenanigans on the side to judge that unless Donald Trump dies, or is completely incapacitated legally, he will be the Republican nominee. At this point, in fact, I would say he'd probably become the nominee even if states began kicking him off the ballot. I don't think that anyone else comes close enough to actually have a hope. It basically comes down to Iowa at this point. DeSantis is semi-competitive there. If he manages to score a win, basically it puts him in the Ted Cruz category. You'll remember 2016. Trump did not win Iowa. He lost the first state. In fact, he lost it relatively badly in an unexpected upturning by Ted Cruz. And then, of course, Cruz did not become the nominee. The Patriot Cairo. What the hell, Stick? Sun isn't even up. Clank or die. Yeah, here it's been up for a while. It's also a heat wave. I wish that I could just go fucking completely shirtless, but I've got a kid now, so I have to keep up appearances, as you can see. Tune in, drop out. If Trump is no longer in the running for any reason, who would be your pick? I would write in Donald Trump at this point. The only possibility of getting me to vote for anyone else is if Rand Paul decided to jump in. Let's say Trump strokes out tomorrow and Rand Paul says, fuck it. He would have my vote. I can't think of anybody else who I could vote for. I mean, what is there? Ramaswamy is disingenuous. Chris Christie's nuts. Nikki Haley's a warmonger. Same with Asa Hutchinson. Tim Scott does the Jesus thing too much to be elected in general. And Ron DeSantis has such poor strategic sense, he would lose as well. And the long and short of it is this. It is not physically possible for anyone to win in the general election from the GOP side without at least a supermajority of MAGA voters behind them. The numbers simply aren't there. Unless you swept up literally every independent in the country, you could not counterbalance that many voters. Trump is the only one who can reliably get them. Literally nobody else in the field can. Anybody else would lose against Joe Biden, in my opinion. They might even lose against Kamala Harris, which would be, can you fucking imagine that? The GOP is so nuts that they sabotage themselves to such an extent Kamala ends up being the person running and they still lose. Never underestimate the GOP's ability to fuck things up. They're basically a counterbalance to Joe Biden. Mark Guidetti. I make a spicy cocoa espresso barbecue rub and a bourbon whiskey espresso barbecue sauce. They're awesome. The latter sounds delicious. Doubt Shadow. Valuetainment has a great interview with Mike Flynn. Interesting. Better than Mike Pence, that's for sure. Little Mikey. There's a little Mikey and a big Mikey. And also, there might be an arms deal at some point between Russia and the DPRK. We are definitely watching that with rapt attention because it's fucking hilarious. If Russia really needs weapons from North Korea, I mean, it's good for the North Koreans. They can build up an advanced arms industry. They can sell bullets and rockets and shit like that cheap. That'd be China as a co-partner probably in that. And it'd be really, really funny if North Korea ended up becoming first world simply because everyone gets employed by a bunch of Russian factories. Yeah. No, I wouldn't vote for Ramaswamy. I hate to say this, but at this point, I've seen enough evidence to show me that I should not be supporting him. I'm Team Trump. In the absence of Trump, unless they give me somebody like Rand Paul, who I can fully vouch for because there's a track record of legislation, I would not vote GOP at all. I would write in Donald Trump. Even if he dies. If Donald Trump were to get assassinated tomorrow, and don't put it past these maniacs to try to take a shot JFK style, I'd write in Donald Trump because fuck the GOP, who cares? It's like Mike Pence. He comes out earlier. We've got to talk about the ADL at some point. Mike Pence comes out earlier. And he says he's begging people to choose conservatism over populism. Okay, yeah, there's yesteryear's GOP calling. One of the biggest mistakes that Donald Trump ever made was taking you on as running mate. There's a reason that you're stalled out in 5th place at the moment. You were briefly considered viable. I think that illusion of viability has largely fallen by the wayside. It's gone the way of the Tyrannosaurus Rex and smells probably just as bad. Yeah, Tucker is going to be talking to some dude who claims that he screwed Obama back in the 90s. They had a gay tryst of some sort. Unless we can establish, skeptic's hat on. I'm going to be skeptical about this unless he can show, yeah, here's a picture of me with Barack Obama at the time we physically met or something like that. I'll look into it, but I'm skeptical. I'm skeptical of the evidence that'll be offered. Because I noticed that it's a lot like hit pieces against other politicians, like including Trump. Oh, yeah, I fucked Trump, and here's a description of his penis. It's a small furry mushroom or something like that. Well, that's very interesting. Do you have any evidence whatsoever of your claims? No? Well, then go pound sand. Go touch grass. There are much bigger things to worry about than Obama's sexual proclivities, although I do note that the liberals are trying to make that a distraction piece. Hey, everyone, talk about the dude who's no longer eligible to run for the presidential office and who left office long ago instead of talking about knocking on doors, harvesting a couple of ballots, talking to friends and relatives about the need to destroy Joe Biden and Bidenomics, or about the persecution of Donald Trump, the J6 defendants, and things that are actually pertinent in this decade. No, talk about the dude that left in 2016 and about the fact that he smoked pole. I don't care if Obama smoked pole. I don't care if this dude can prove. I don't care if he has a video footage of himself fucking Obama in the ass. It doesn't matter to me. It literally doesn't matter at all. Doubt Shadow. Clankers, follow Glenn Greenwald's system update on Rumble. Honest, non-establishment nightly news at 7 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. Long-form debates, great guests. Yeah, Greenwald does it pretty well. Let's see here. Seems like, did I skip one? Yeah. Thoughts of Cronus. Can I get a name drop going to do a review on one of your books? Okay, you can follow Thoughts of Cronus. He's going to review one of my works. By the way, there is a link in the description, cross-platform and pinned at the top if you're watching on YouTube, in the chat that is, to my book's blog. Now, there's plenty of spooky stuff available. Halloween is coming up. It'll come faster than you think. Get some, well, not stocking stuffers, maybe pumpkin stuffers, jack-o'-lantern stuffers for your friends and family. I've got your back covered. Doesn't matter what particular superstitious, paranormal, or occult topic you happen to be into. There's a little bit for everyone there. Literally doesn't matter what subset you're into. That's a good idea, actually. Imagine that we popularize a Halloween tradition. So instead of stocking stuffing like, you have with Christmas, you have like a jack-o'-lantern that you put by the fire and people put like spooky things in there, like a fake bat or a fake rat or like books of magic or something like that. That could catch on. Somebody get to popularizing that. We're going to need a PAC fund or something. Get that going at the White House, preferably when Joe Biden has moved on and the White House carpets are no longer stained brown. by him and his dogs, allegedly. Fiona is my bitch. Greetings and salutations. Greetings to you as well. Yeah, that sounds like a fun idea. Anyway, we'll get right to the news here. ADL calls Elon Musk's lawsuit threat profoundly disturbing. Oh, clutch my pearls harder, Eustace. And frivolous after he accused the group of falsely painting him and X, which is Twitter, everyone still uses that term, as anti-Semitic. ADL CEO Jonathan Greenblatt fired back at Musk in a statement on Tuesday. I believe that he has comments closed on virtually every post that he makes for a reason. I wonder what that reason is. Called Musk's threat of a lawsuit frivolous and deeply irresponsible. Musk on Monday blamed the ADL for X's steep loss in advertising revenue. It wasn't just the ADL, Elon. It was a nexus between the ADL and other various groups associated with the drive for more censorship. The ADL, the SPLC, the NAACP, groups like that, so craptivistic groups that grift off people's money. Other corporations in association with them that pay them the big bucks to attack you because they're their competitor, number two, and various governmental forces and banksters and things like that. It's much more than the ADL. This is why the lawsuit probably fails. You're suing the tip of the iceberg. The ADL is a boogeyman, but it's one of a number. It's not really so much the boogeyman. It's more like Legion or something like that. Like, you know, the biblical story where the dude's possessed by a literal army of devils and he's just completely nuts, wandering around the graveyard shrieking, and then Jesus puts the demons into pigs and then they go kill themselves inexplicably for absolutely no reason. It's like the demons are afraid of not having a body to possess, but then they immediately kill the bodies that they're allowed to possess by Jesus. It never made a whole lot of sense to me, but it's an interesting story for sure. Anytime that you've got a possessed dude shrieking and dragging his shackles around in the graveyard, you write a Gothic novel based on that. Matthew Crockford, hi, US or Holland for the next 5 years, and why? I'm going to go back and forth between both. Why? Because I have a family here. I also have family in the United States. I love my country, which is the United States. I also like it here in Holland. It's a great country and with some great food, by the way. We actually went for a walk the other day. I posted some pictures of like mushrooms and shit from our little adventure. And now I've got a car here as well. A really sweet car, too. It's an older model, but it's a Mercedes-Benz, and it rides like a cloud. It's a bit more posh than the Avalon that I had been driving in Rutland. Anyway, yeah, Jesus killed all the pigs for some reason. I think there's probably a metaphor there. Anyway, here's my read on Elon Musk's ADL lawsuit. I don't believe in causing the members of the ADL not to be able to speak freely. So if Jonathan Greenblatt wants to go on Twitter and blat over and over incessantly while blocking people from criticizing him, that's his purview. It's a platform, and it should be a common carrying style of platform, and Elon Musk should go through with that. As the organization, ADL, with all of the tax money that goes into it indirectly through third parties, et cetera, the Anti-Defamation League really is just the Defamation League. They exist to spread falsehoods about other people, mafioso style, when paid off by a competitor. So let's say it would be equivalent to this. Let's say there's a local activistic network. I'm in small town America. I have a couple of gas stations. I have, Sticks, Hex, and Hammer gas, come and eat and get gas, something like that. I think that's a slogan from a literal gas station, if I remember correctly. And I've got a competitor, the only other one in town, because it's small town America. We've each got, 2 or 3 gas stations. And it's Joe Schmo from Kokomo's gas station or something like that. And he sells margarita shots too. So, people are flocking to his business to get drunk and go driving. And I talk to the local activistic network and say, well, I really love the work that you're doing. I'd love to donate 20 grand to your efforts. By the way, did you see that there are some wonky views that Joe Schmo from Kokomo has? Yeah, he's in private. We get him loaded on his own margarita shots. He says some weird shit, and it's directly countervening the spirit of liberty or togetherness, diversity or whatever. And then they attack him, and then he has to pay him off, or he has to do what Elon Musk is doing and threaten to sue them for a loss of business or something like that. I hate to tell you this. It sounds like a conspiratorial sort of arrangement, but that sort of mafioso tactic happens literally all of the time because it's not illegal in most cases. It's perfectly legal. If I wanted to, I could donate 100 grand to the ADL, and they're probably not going to criticize me. They are probably more likely to criticize someone who is my direct competitor. That's just the way that it works. Or they come and they say, well, it'd be a shame if your business were to be labeled a Nazi business. You know, a little bit of a donation goes a long way during these hard times. We could use a 6-figure infusion right now. It's mafioso tactics. The ADL should not really exist. It has no purpose. It was based on lies to begin with. It was never good. Some people are claiming that. The individual members have every right to speak. If you want to claim that everyone that criticizes you or the politicians that give you power and money as being a Nazi, that's fine. That's like your opinion, man. You've created an entire money-making apparatus, though, to do it. There should be a different legal standard with regards to these groups. But anyway, Elon Musk is suing them, I guess, or threatening to sue them. We'll see how far it goes. He has threatened to do other things before and not carried through with it. So I wouldn't get my hopes up, but I still have some hope there. It'd be funny to watch him sue the ADL. Espielite, hola, my Vivigor. If Trump wins and Biden perma-sleeps, would he theoretically be 45, 46, 47, and 48? Do not look up how the ADL was founded or who Leo Frank was. Yeah, Leo Frank was an alleged rapist, actually. Allegedly attacked and I think raped and killed a young girl. And then the ADL was formed by a bunch of other individuals who happen to be Jewish, by the way, to defend him, to raise money, etc. And in the end, in their filings, they blamed like the black janitor, basically, the illiterate black dude. And it's very, very funny because I don't see politicians bringing up some of those court filings that use the hard N-word. Very, very telling. Nixie. Sticks, while I agree, isn't it interesting that left is arguing for evidence regarding Obama's gay lover while at the same time claiming that Trump hooker piss tape sexual exploitations are true? Yeah, well, we've debunked that. We know that there is no actual piss tape. That's age old at this point. But I'm going to apply the same standard that I did to Trump and all the bullshit about him to what's being claimed about Obama. Not a fan of Obama. Didn't like his presidency. Corrupt as hell. We've got plenty of proof of corruption. Why would I focus on something like this? Okay, it's interesting. It's a human interest story, but it has nothing to do with politics. I don't give a shit about who Obama screws. I also don't give a shit about Michelle Obama's alleged gender. The bonus holes. Just watched your most recent occult video. I noticed in the title you spelled the word magic with a C at the end. Isn't the type of magic you were referring to spelled with a K at the end to differentiate it from stage magic? It's either or. You can do either one. Nick Morse, got this as a tip doing Uber the other day. Thought it was only right to pass it on to you. 666. Thank you very much, Nick. Timothy Finch, you'd think the Texas GOP trying to remove Ken Paxton would have learned from Liz Cheney what happens when you continually tell your voters to screw off. Yeah, that is a little bit of a debacle. However, I would point out that it does appear that there were some shady dealings with Ken Paxton. It's just is now really the time to impeach and remove him from his position when you've got the entire left breathing down your whole party's neck. You can argue ethics versus strategy. The Patriot Cairo, neolibs, neocons are equal scam artists, but the youth are much easier taken in by the left because they exploit emotion. Hard for kids to suppress feelings. Yes, or I would rather say moralistic movements do more well with the youth. The right wing has some too. Fiona is my bitch. I am the second owner of a delightful 1991 240D Mercedes Euro Edition manual with stick. I can't drive a manual myself. That runs wonderfully and feels like riding on a cloud, waiting for an EMP. Yeah, older vehicles will still work if there's ever another Carrington event. There's an advantage to some of the old fogies on the road. Ronan361, on your previous stream statement about the GOP, if they have sand up their ass, it's as likely they're old and dusty. If up the bonus hole, it could be a yeast infection. Is that a reverse ostrich? Yeah, I mean, you look at some of these crazy, you look at Mitch McConnell, like he probably masturbates with sand at this point. He just gets confused. He doesn't know what he's doing. Let's see. Shoves in his ass, his urethra. Mitch McConnell's a weird dude. Yeah, he was probably doing that when he was sane too, though. So we'll give him a pass. Next news story. Molly Hemingway. This is an opinion piece on RCP. GOP needs to start coming to terms. Trump is likely to be nominee. I would put it beyond just likely. I would say very, very likely. Again, there's that 1 in 1,000 chance that he is JFK'd or he croaks. There's always a more measurable chance that they preclude him from number of ballots, and so he's not even on the ballot in some states. That they may be crazy enough to try, although in some of those states he might win on a write-in. Like they're doing that in Florida. I think that Donald Trump would probably win Florida as a write-in candidate. I mean, everyone knows who he is, so all he has to do is make a fucking video and a Twitter post and say, look, you can write in Donald Trump. Simple as. Nothing more to do about it. It'd be funny if Donald Trump were to win re-election Grover Cleveland style, despite not even getting the nomination of his party, too. That's also another possibility. They could broker the convention and do what the Democrats did, actually, with Obama and Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton won more of the popular vote and more of the delegates than Barack Obama did. They chose Obama. They chose to vote for him because they felt that he was more electable. By the way, they made the right decision. Hillary Clinton would have fared worse against John McCain. And either way, Hillary versus McCain, either way, you're probably getting World War III. So, yeah, Obama was definitely a better choice than Hillary. She then lost her chance in 2016, much to her chagrin, and got drunk that night, allegedly throwing bottles around and screaming at people. And a very nervous John Podesta had to go out on stage and tell people, well, it's not over yet. They're still counting in a few states. We'll come out with an announcement tomorrow. Then they got her cleaned up. They cleared the booze puke off of her dress, got her into a new one, and she was able to stagger out on stage hungover long enough to say, Donald Trump won, despite the fact that everyone swore that it was impossible for that to happen. Here's what I think. Donald Trump has a 99.9% chance of winning the primary. What happens from there is the real kicker. I can't really predict it at the moment. I have no clue what's going to happen because so much precedent has been broken and really nobody else has a clue either. It could be that all of the cases against him collapse, in which case, by the way, he's reelected in a landslide. It could be that they throw that wall at him, kangaroo courtism steps in, and he gets fucked balls to the wall. He ends up running from house arrest in the Mar-a-Lago. They would probably, by the way, try to preclude him from interacting with social media if that happens. No computers allowed. He might start another insurrection or something like that. The more, though, that they push this bullshit mythological line of Trump, the great wannabe dictator, the great wannabe head oligarch, the grand poobah, the big kahuna of the United States, he wants to destroy democracy, the more it feels hollow to people, I think, because the novelty wears off. 5 years ago, if you said, well, Donald Trump is going to try to install himself as dictator, there'd be a receptive audience for that. It was never true, but there'd be some people that would accept it. Now, when you say it, it's like, okay, you said it 100 times before, and it doesn't seem to have happened. The entire argument breaks down even more when you realize that Donald Trump is the first person to ever occupy that office to be legally persecuted. Donald Trump, in my opinion, as of today, would have a better than 50-50 chance of being reelected. And I've given my reasons on a number of occasions for that. The polling is far better than it was in 2020 and quite a bit better than it was in 2016. Of course, he won 2016. He totally lost 2020 by about 100,000 votes. If the polling holds true, if I assume that polling is remotely accurate, he'd soar away with it. He'd win every single competitive state. He would win Michigan. He'd grab up Virginia. He'd actually do better than he did in 2016. That's number one. Number two, there are just enough people out there with that sense of Americana to, in the privacy of the ballot box, of course, cast their vote for someone just to screw with the system. Just because he's an outlaw, especially if he's found guilty of some of these charges. Americans would love it. It'd be hilarious. It would be the most exciting possible outcome, the most exciting outcome being the most likely. Can you imagine? You've got a choice. 4 more years of predictable doldrums, boredom, Joe Biden eventually probably dying in office, leaving you Kamala Harris as the president of the United States, almost certainly. Boy, oh boy, wouldn't that be fun? Or you can elect the bombastic dude who you know is going to get in there. He's going to say weird shit. He's going to do weird shit. And in the end, ultimately, it will still be better off than unipartyism. This is why they're pulling out all of the stops. They're terrified of this dude. They're not terrified of a so-called Cult 45. They're terrified that if he gets in there again and he does what he did before again, then there will be a cult of personality. And it will offshoot other potential leaders who will run for office. And then they won't be dealing with Trump and a handful of others, Boebert and Gates and a handful of people in Congress. They won't be dealing with 6 or 7 people. They'll be dealing with 60 or 70 people. And then the paradigm begins to flip over and their boat is the one that gets upended. That's what they're afraid of. It's not just Trump. It goes beyond that. In my opinion, I think that Donald Trump has a very good chance of being reelected. Go ahead and call me naive. I was right in 2016. I was also right in 2020. It's just that I didn't put in the caveat that Trump would win but not take office. Probably should have thought of that one, because that is what indeed happened. Augusto Mimoshette, what do you think about the Sikhi movement for an independent Khalistan? I haven't researched it at all, so I have no opinion. Last Raven, how to fix when Obama used HUD and Section 8 to diversify the suburbs. I remember that. And other areas causing changes in demographics to lead to exponentially higher crimes. Yeah, the easiest way to fix that is to do absolutely nothing other than canceling out anything that Obama did as an initiative, because there's no way to force people out of the areas they've already resettled in. DLD, please give a shout out to my 82-year-old mom. It's her birthday and she'd love it as she's a fan. Marcia is her name. Happy birthday, Marcia. May you have many more. Go and eat some cake. Hope you prepare your mom a good dinner. Cook her some curry madras or something, some Indian food. Lev Polyakov, good morning, Sticks and Dicky Dick. Any thoughts on Hurricane Lee hitting the East Coast? Haven't kept up with that. I'll have to look into it. It's Ken Reza. If you want more YouTube clout, exploit the algorithm the same as the Spiffing Brit. He has some excellent videos on YouTube exploits. I'll look into it, but in some cases, stuff like that can be against TOS. Anyway, I have over 500,000 subscribers. The fact that YouTube prevents me from growing hasn't caused me to shrink, and I'm growing so quickly on Rumble and other platforms that it's almost become tedious to even bother dealing with YouTube's algorithm. Like, there's almost 1,200 people watching me on Rumble. It's almost the same number as are watching me on YouTube right now. Yeah. Fiona's my bitch. The price good men pay for indifference to public affairs is to be ruled by evil men. Plato. It's very true. Timothy Finch. Trump should bribe Sanders to run as a no-labeler. I think that Sanders is on his way out politically. I don't think that would work, actually. I think that they might get Manchin in there. That would actually do more damage. Bernie Sanders would be splitting the Cornel West vote. Joe Manchin would definitely grab up some of the Union Dem vote, which otherwise in some parts may go to Trump, but a lot of them would go to Biden. Sigil Stone, a big-ass nest of big-ass hornets has been discovered at my job, about 13 to 15 feet off the ground, attached to a big air sucker pipe. Give me fun ways to piss them off. I already threw rocks at it. You probably shouldn't piss the hornets off. You should probably get a drone and put a torch on the front of it. Just burn them. There are videos of that on YouTube. It looks pretty fun. Fire extinguisher might kill them, or at least incapacitate them. Don't quote me on that, though. Don't get yourself killed, Sigil Stone. Then you'll end up like Wasted Bonehead. You'll come back as a zombie. Next news story. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un expected to meet with Putin. Any arms deal would violate several UN Security Council resolutions. I love that aside here. It's from ABC, obviously. Do you think in a million goddamn years at this point that Putin, who just invaded his neighbors and has spent his time pounding them relentlessly for a year, gaining embargo after embargo and blockades and shit, you think that he gives a fucking shit about the UN Security Council? Russia doesn't give a fuck about that. They're self-sufficient thanks to their partnership with other Eastern Bloc nations. They don't have to worry about the UN. If anything, the real linchpin is China. China should be booted out of the goddamn UN because of their constant haranguing and stupidity. But the people in the West don't have the balls to do that because they all have investments in China. And India, the heir apparent to the Chinese investment bubble, happens to be a member of BRICS. They've got their own, well, it's Bharat now, I guess, supposedly. They've got their own ambitions, and they spar with China on a regular basis. And, there was a map of China that really pissed off the people of India / Bharat. That was last week. But in the end, if you've got China on your side, you have financing, you have raw materials, you have North Korea waiting in the wings through their diplomatic efforts, through Beijing mostly, actually. And who cares if the arms deal violates the UN resolutions? All countries violate the UN's resolutions whenever they can, whenever it's profitable to them. France has done it. The UK has done it. China and Russia have both done it multiple times. I think that India and Pakistan technically have both done it in adverse to one another. The US has done it. The US has never violated UN resolutions before. Of course it has. Look at the Iraq War, for example. Fuck the UN. Nobody cares about it. Everyone wants to join up and have a seat at the table. But the second the negotiation breaks down, they just ignore it because it's toothless. Nobody cares about what the UN has to say. As for this, if an arms deal goes through, mind you, and we're not sure about that, but there have been cases where Eastern Bloc countries, they want to have a huge agreement and then everything falls flat in the end. This happens in the West also, in full disclosure. If it happens, it would be a great thing for the North Koreans because all of a sudden, you got tens of thousands of new manufacturing jobs, fairly well paying. You're getting a shit ton of income from the Russians, and all you're doing is you're making bullets and shit like that, bullets and rockets and so forth. North Korea has made great strides in its arms technology. It's a lot of people want to think about them fighting off the South Koreans with tractors upon invasion or something like that. No. They do have sophisticated systems. They are not quite up to par. But for a country that is largely isolated from the entire world's economy, you don't have to like North Korea's Juche communism. I don't. You don't have to like their authoritarianism. I don't. You don't have to admire or respect their government. I certainly don't. But you do have to admire and respect the fact that they're capable of surviving for so long with only one trading partner of any note, which is China. Even the Russians have shuttered them out multiple times throughout their existence. North Korea, nonetheless, is still there. It's still sovereign, and it has made advances to the point where it's now a nuclear state. Well, you could do worse under those circumstances. A lot of nations wouldn't survive such extreme isolation, especially when they're repeatedly racked with famines. So we'll see what happens. I'll be looking into that story, I'm sure, in the coming weeks. Not a banned account. Only regime change in Russia can bring peace. Yeah, I don't agree with that. I think better the devil you know. I mean, if you're anti-Putin, you're hoping that Putin remains in power because the next person that comes along might have a more itchy trigger finger, might be more insane or something. Joshua Beckett, what's the political and social fallout? Should Obama's entire persona be revealed as a charade? Wife is a man, kids aren't his. Though it's a political win, is it not a valuable red pill? No. It wouldn't be, it'd be a distraction away from things that are currently going on in the contemporary sense. We've heard rumors of Barack Obama being gay or bisexual for a long time. People have been ranting about Michelle Obama actually being Mike Obama for a long time. By the way, I don't believe that rumor. That's been going on forever. It's been going on since his campaign many, many years ago. But it's meaningless. If you're going to criticize Obama, talk about Fast and Furious, the IRS scandal, or something like that. Michael Hastings' assassination, because he was looking a little bit too deep into the deep state. Not a banned account. Will the Netherlands stop its nitrogen polluters? They're certainly trying to rid the world of farming, which is very strange for a nation that's the second largest food exporter in the entire world. I don't know. But half the government has resigned. So, in fact, I don't even know who the prime minister is at the moment. Mark Rutte left. I don't know. Sancto Dave, appreciate your opinion because we agree. Lol, mostly. Thank you. Sigil Stone, thanks for the idea. I'll move the Hornets next to Bonehead's grave. Yeah, but he's a zombie, so, you can't hurt him with stingy thing because, poison, he doesn't have circulation. The poison won't do anything. You'll have to think outside of the box on this one. An impeachment inquiry looms. It carries real risks for both Biden and the Republicans. I'd like to talk about this briefly. Just impeach Joe Biden already and fucking get it over with. Donald Trump was impeached for literally nothing on 2 separate occasions. And yet, despite the fact that the Republicans run the House, they have the votes. If they just hold the line, even if a couple people vote nay, they still have the votes to impeach Joe Biden. The House is free to do this for literally any purpose. They don't even need an actual legally binding reason. Impeachment is a toothless gesture unless you also have a considerable support in the Senate, which the GOP clearly doesn't have. Just impeach him. Just make your claims against Joe Biden in front of the public. Make it a star-studded affair. Impeach him. It's just for show. The Senate takes a vote. They automatically exonerate him. And then you go back to doing, actual work. Stop talking about it, shit, or get off the pot. Kevin McCarthy would be well warned. You're not going to last long as Speaker. You're going to get Boehner and get removed from that position and be incapable of continuing as Speaker of the House unless you do the will of the party. The will of the vast majority of Republicans and a significant number of independents like myself, just impeach him. Just impeach Joe Biden. He lied to the American people. We can prove this on numerous occasions. He effectively perjured himself before the public. He has made numerous legal mistakes with regards to his son's business dealings, etc., all of which is impeachable. He flat out lied to the American people and said that he had no dealings with Hunter's business associates. We now have pictures of him meeting with several of them. We have emails between him and several of them. We're now finding out he used a half a dozen fucking email pseudonyms to carry on various personal business separate from his official government accounts. What more evidence do you possibly need? Donald Trump was impeached twice for far less than this. Just have balls. Trump tried to give you back at least one of your fucking testicles, shriveled and retarded as though it is. Successful operation. You had a little bit of testosterone for a while, and now the Republicans are at great risk for doing what the Republicans are most known for, which is snatching defeat from the jaws of victory by simply not being willing to go that extra mile. It's cut and dry. It's a simple single vote majority thing to impeach a sitting president. It's been done many times before. A number of presidents have been impeached, not just Donald Trump or Bill Clinton. It happens fairly routinely. You're just effectively making an allegation to the American people, and it's really about the message to them that matters. It's not the impeachment itself. We think that he's guilty of something. Wrongdoing was done. By the way, simply starting an impeachment inquiry grants you greater latitude into looking into Biden's personal dealings. Right now, you're rather hamstrung now, aren't you? Impeachment inquiry would give you far more subpoena latitude. This is, by the way, the reason why they haven't done it yet, because I feel that they're trying to protect Joe Biden. They're so terrified of Trump, they'd rather sabotage their own stupid political party. And by the way, the Republicans are a stupid political party. I just look at the way that they act. The handful of them that have balls, people like Trump, Rand Paul, Thomas Massey, a handful of others, Lauren Boebert, are constantly ridiculed by their own party. Jens Peterson. Can you explain Fast and Furious? Yes, through Eric Holder, who never got in trouble for it. The Obama administration gave automatic weapons to the Sinaloa cartel in Mexico, violating a number of laws in the process. No follow-through. Oh, we're sorry. And a border agent got killed by one of those guns, which is the only reason we found out about the existence of that subversive program. It was basically an arming the Contras moment. Legacy media practically blacked it out. Fox covered it. Controlled opposition Fox covered it for a while. Nobody else wanted to talk about it. Jens Peterson. I think are too scared to impeach Biden because Mitch Turtleman is threatening with withdrawal funding for sure. It's also a possibility. Yeah, McConnell could croak any day, though, so maybe he'll lose his grasp over the Senate minority. The dude is clearly not doing so well, which is probably for the best. Sigil Stone, Kevin McDurpee still thinks impeachment is some great thing with terrible consequences. Consequences too great for democracy. Yeah, I think that he might think that way. The other thing is he's ass covering for the Uniparty. Next news story. I'll keep these quick because I'm going to go offline a little bit early so I can get started prepping dinner. Hundreds of African migrants get into mass brawl leading to bloodstained streets in Israel. This is from the other day, actually, but I didn't have a room in the docket to cover it. Law enforcement tried to squelch mass brawls with Eritrean migrants in Tel Aviv. By the way, Eritrea, split off country from what was originally Ethiopia. It's an Islamist-heavy region. It's got basically no development index. And there's an awful lot of sectarian and civic violence in the country. This has to do with the latter. The bloody brawls took place between pro and anti-government migrants from Eritrea to protest an event organized by the Eritrean embassy in Tel Aviv. So you're a guest in a foreign country, and you clearly want to be there. There's probably a reason for that. I think Tel Aviv has much more human development than Eritrea has. And if you're from Eritrea, you're like, oh my God, it really is the promised land. Oh, you people are whining about 20 rockets falling on your capital the other day. You should go to my country and see how people get along. And then start fighting, like street fights and bashing each other with poles and machetes and shit like that. They should be expelled. And Netanyahu is actually threatening to do so, to expel these individuals back to Eritrea. Do it. It's about time that when a group of people in a country refuse any form or any semblance of proper behavior, that they get expelled from the country. If a person is being lawful, I think that standards should be generally relaxed for certain groups of migrants in the Western world. For instance, I'm in the Netherlands. I have to take like a language exam, but everyone here already speaks fluent English for the most part. I think that standard should be relaxed some, because it's like, okay, I'm paying into the system. I'm not breaking any laws. I'm at least trying to learn the basics of your language, although it's a little bit difficult for me. I'm better with English than other languages. But a law-abiding individual, married to an individual in your country for an extended period of time, with a kid born in your country who's got dual citizenship, et cetera, that's fine. But then you get a group of people who move into your country, they ghettoize, they take over a couple of city blocks, and they run it like they're their own Gestapo. They never make any attempt to follow the law. There's no attempt whatsoever to assimilate in the civic sense. That's really become the problem, and it's become a problem in virtually the whole world. And this is Israel. This is not a fully developed country. Israel has a development greater than most of its neighbors, but it's not like the UK. It's not Denmark or something like that. The diversity is becoming a little bit of a problem, I suppose. By the way, where's the ADL to call out these people for sparring with Jewish police and hitting them over the head? Doesn't that make them Nazis? I mean, you're a Nazi if you speak freely online. I would think that hitting someone in the head with a cactus is a little bit, or a 2x4, I would think is a little bit more drastic than simply telling someone you don't like one of their political views. But apparently that's not on their priority list. I wonder why. The brothers Hyborian, mind giving a shout out to Conan the Barbarian channel. And what are your thoughts on French politics, notably Zemmour, France's Trump? Haven't heard of Zemmour, actually, I think. Is that a contemporary of Le Pen? I'll look into it, actually. But yeah, shout out to the Conan the Barbarian channel. Mojo Hansen, the ADL is just an extension arm of the DNC. Partially. Goes a little bit deeper than that. They get along well with the evangelical neocons as well. Because, greatest ally, the promised land, and so please vote for us. We're the Jesus party. King of Bilton, by the way, please send no more super chats. I've got one more little news story that I have to go through here. King of Biltong, good morning from Anton's in Roanoke, Texas. Free shipping on your Biltong, sticks, tumblers, and t-shirts when using code STICKS on antonsusa.com and landofbiltong.com. Thanks to Clanker Daniel for visiting. #ClankNation. Nice. Sigilstone, Israel needs to stop excluding the international community and embrace diversity. It is our strength. They need to repay the debt of colonialism. Open borders for Israel. Yeah, you can go either way. You can either chuckle about open borders for Israel, or you can say, hey, there's a good example. Why don't we build the wall? I lean towards the latter. I just, if you want to have a homeland, that's perfectly fine. I wish you wouldn't hit your neighbor's nuclear reactors all the time, but... And then the final news story. I just added this in because it's too funny not to talk about. This is from a few days ago. A Delta Airlines Airbus A350 turned around back to Atlanta Friday night because of diarrhea throughout the airplane from a passenger. That's important. And it's a biohazard. The FAA flight strip for DL-194 was posted to Reddit. Also, a passenger posted here asking why her son's plane was turning around. Audio via liveatc.net. Yes, apparently a single individual managed to shit enough on an airplane that they got it turned back around on its trip back to Atlanta. And I just want to admire this individual who must have scarfed down like fucking 12 grillers from Taco Bell right before the flight or something. Like they're in the Atlanta airport. They went to the Mexican restaurant and they're like, oh, I'm awfully hungry. They had 2 taco bowls from Trump Tower, and then they went to the airport and they scarfed down a bunch of Taco Bell. I want to ask a question in more serious terms. One question: how is it? Why did they ground the plane for one person shitting? Because it shouldn't be physically possible for one person to shit enough. I mean, I'm assuming they didn't strip off their clothes, so their pants are containing some of that anal slime. It shouldn't be physically possible for them to shit enough for it to register as a biohazard. Look, babies go on planes, they poop, some of it leaks out, people get flight sick, they vomit, sometimes they miss the bag, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And if you've gone into the bathrooms on planes, it's hit or miss. Sometimes they're pretty spotless. Other times, not so much. By the way, if you ride Greyhound, the not so much becomes much. But it's not a biohazard. The fact that a person shit all over down the aisle. I mean, what did he do? Was he walking down the aisle waddling while his shit was rolling down the pants sleeves? How is it even possible for him to shit all the way down the aisle? How is it physically possible? I'm wondering why. Anyway, I don't think they should have turned the flight around. I think they should have gone on to their destination and preferably moved some passengers around. Hey, because you're next to the shit aisle, you get a free upgrade to Comfort Plus or something. Although, maybe they don't have Comfort Plus on this flight or whatever, because there's a couple seats open and people don't want to smell your shit. And then why not just disinfect it? Like there isn't fucking disinfectants on board and shit like that. I'm sure that you're capable of cleaning up the amount of shit that's capable of being in one person's colon. Was this dude 500 fucking pounds? And when he waddled off the plane, he was only 250 pounds? Is that the explanation? It doesn't really make a whole lot of sense when you think about it, but it's too funny of a story for me to be able to pass it up. Because one legendary individual, by the power of Taco Bell nachos, apparently, managed to make a dirty bomb on a plane and not get arrested for it, by the way, in the process. I just thought this was one of the greatest things that I've ever read. I was laughing the whole time. Sigil Stone, I'll send you a video on Twitter of the aftermath. It'll become clear why they had to land the plane ASAP. And yes, they were waddling down the aisle. Okay, so we've got an explanation. Please do send that to me over on Twitter DM. I must see that. Anyways, Alan Smithy. No, one more. Anyway, I'm going to go offline here. I know fewer people watching because I started early. It's not even quite 4,000 on the live stream. I think I feel successful because I'm like, oh, that's not much of an audience when 4,000 people are watching. The shit story, the brutal diarrhea story. By the way, on Twitter, I did post some grindcore from Intestinal Disgorge that I imagine was the soundtrack to that particular flight. You should take a look at that. If you're high, Intestinal Disgorge is exceptionally funny. Anyway, yeah, it's the middle of a heat wave. I don't want to have to wear a shirt. I got chicken to prep and all that fucking horse shit. And I'm a little bit on the hungry side too. So I'll let you go now. I'll be back tomorrow probably at a more normal time, a little bit later. Like this would be the time that I'd normally be starting or thereabouts. In the meantime, please don't eat so much Taco Bell that you have a Delta flight grounded by pooping in the aisle all over the place. It's not helpful to the other people on the plane. That's about all. Peace out.